The way this kind of came about is I follow a lot of Keith's work. I actually follow him on Twitter and all kinds of different places. And he posts a lot of the same stuff that I like to post. And so I kind of reached out to him over the summer, toward the end of the summer, and asked about one of these sessions. And he was like, "Sure, absolutely. Let's do whatever." And so we had a little chat, and that's kind of how this whole thing came together. Um, and so I'm a firm believer in creating a positive school culture, especially amongst our staff. And right now, I mean, it's almost a must. Well, it is a must. The teaching profession, it's they're not breaking down the doors to get in here right now. I don't know if it's any different for anybody else, but I mean, it's a pretty hard sell um, most of the time. So I think the way that we treat people and the way that we talk to our staff, I think that really, it really does matter. And so that's what the bulk of the presentation today is going to be about. So just a little background about kind of where Megan and I started in this building. Um, this is my 13th year in education. I actually started teaching in this building when it was a middle school. It's now an elementary school. It's a K-4 school. I started my teaching career here, 13 years ago, and then went on and taught in a few different places, a few other middle schools. And then when the principal job came open here in this building, I came back. It's a special community. There's special families here. And I just feel a connection here specifically at this building. So, but when I came back, it was the COVID year. Everything shut down in March. I got hired as the principal here in June of 2020. And what a trip. So I was coming from an assistant principal role and coming into a principal role into an elementary school in the middle of a pandemic. And it was something else. And turns out I wasn't the only new blood in the building. There was at least 10 classroom teachers left the year that the same year that I was coming on board. So when I got hired, there was many vacancies, including an assistant principal vacancy, a secretary bookkeeper vacancy, a lead custodian vacancy. So very overwhelming coming in. But I mean, on the bright side, I was able to hire pretty much my people. I was able to build my own team. And that was a positive. But I mean, that's kind of what we walked into in June of 2020 here at Concrete Elementary School. Lots of vacancies. We hired at least 16 staff members total, I think. Like I said, new principal, new assistant principal, and the morale in the building was pretty morose at the time. So for whatever reason, I think leadership change. We were in a pandemic. Things may or may not have been going so well. And so we were coming into a pretty dismal situation. And upon looking at some data before I came on board, of course, I was looking at the CSIP and all the things that I thought I was supposed to be looking at coming in as a new principal. And I came across the old TEL survey results, and these are on the outline that I shared with you. I noticed some pretty low numbers. School climate was at 31%, school leadership 27%, staff leadership relationships was at 39%. And so once Megan and I got together, we decided that that's where we had to start. We had to start building some culture and climate within our building. And so the first thing that we did was we looked at what is the school's mission statement? Like, what is Concrete Elementary School all about? And so there was this huge mission statement. I mean, it sounded great. It had all the buzzwords in it, more buzzwords than you can count. I mean, rigor was in there. There was all sorts of purposeful, intentional, all sorts of nice words in there. But we really wanted to pare that down so we could all rally around one concise, true mission statement for our school. So, in meeting with the staff that was here and the staff that we had hired, we kind of got together with some teacher leaders and leaders throughout the building and pared down, narrowed down our mission statement. And it's on the outline, and it says under Roman numeral 2, to create a safe and caring learning environment where all can achieve success. I mean, it's nothing mind-blowing. Probably a mission statement that exists in 100 other schools in the state. I don't know. But for us, the intentionality of having the words safe and caring first in that mission statement, that was huge to us. And we constantly pointed that out. We made it a point to mention that if we as educators don't feel safe and cared for, especially in the middle of a pandemic when there was so much uncertainty going on, if we don't feel safe and cared for, then none of this is going to work. It may work, but it's not going to be pretty. So we decided that that is where we had to put our efforts, creating a safe and caring learning environment. And then the other key word in that mission statement is the word all. Like a lot of times mission statements are only written for students. And yeah, I mean, that's why we're in the business, but we also have to cultivate safety and a caring environment for each other. And so we made it a point to pull out the word all a lot. And all means everybody in the school, everybody associated with the school, the stakeholders, community members, staff, students, families. And so really just narrowing down that mission statement so we can all rally behind that and reference that, that was a big deal. There was a time when I thought, mission statement, I mean, sure, let's put something on a poster and hang it up. But if you truly want a vision and a mission that everybody can get behind and believe in and move forward as one unit, then you really do have to believe in your mission statement and your vision statement. And so I'm very thankful that we were able to do that and rally people behind that. So once we had the mission, we knew what we were going to do. Then it's like, okay, how do we do it? How do we create this safe and caring learning environment for all of us in the middle of a pandemic when we may have students coming in, we may not have students coming in. We may have staff coming in, we may not have staff coming in. I'm new, I don't know. Megan's new, she didn't know the answer. Central office didn't know. I never forget calling, she's not with us at central office now, she recently retired, but she was our HR director at the time. And it was awesome. I called her one day, I was all flustered. I was like, I don't know what to do with this situation. This staff member has done this, and so this and this has happened. And she's like, well, Travis, I don't know either. I've never been in a pandemic before. And it was just to hear somebody say that and recognize that, look, we're all in uncharted waters here. We don't know what we're doing. But having that consistent message that we kept sharing with each other and our staff through that mission statement really helped with that. And just focusing on relationships. So I will let Ms. Swart talk a little bit about what we did intentionally to build these relationships.
Well, and do you want to talk about the clarity versus certainty that we continue to hammer during all that time of inconsistencies and unknown?
Oh, sure. I mean, that was one positive that did come out of getting into education or getting into leadership during the middle of the pandemic. We had a lot of time with our staff when it was just us in the building. Staff was in the building, we were in the building, so we were able to meet with them a lot and talk openly about what's going on. And one thing that we kept referencing was this idea of certainty versus clarity. We mentioned that a lot in almost all of our faculty meetings or any time that we met together with staff. The idea of certainty versus clarity. The certainty piece, no one knew. Like there was no answer for that. We did not know how long this thing was going to last. We didn't know how it was going to affect us. We didn't know if we were having students next week. We didn't know if are they coming in, half of them coming in? Are we doing a hybrid or what are we doing? We didn't know. That was the uncertainty. But the clarity piece, we did have that. We knew that when they did come, when the students did come, we know what our mission is. And we know what we're going to do as a staff of Concrete Elementary School. We are going to create a safe and caring first learning environment where all can achieve success. And so just constantly reminding people that, look, yes, this uncertainty exists. And I mean, it just is what it is. It's the uncertainty was there. There is no answer. I didn't have an answer. Megan didn't have an answer. But recognizing that, but also giving our staff the comfort in knowing that we do have a clear purpose, though. We have a clear mission. Whether kids come next week, whether they come the next week, whether we're teaching online, whatever we're doing, we know what our mission is. And so that was the certainty versus clarity piece that we talked about a lot.
Yeah. And then once we had our clear mission statement and our purpose, we really focused on relationships with our staff. And so first thing we're going to talk about is the honesty and vulnerability piece. And like Travis said, we were both new and we were in a pandemic. So one of the things that we both agreed was to be honest with our staff. We didn't know. A lot of the questions that they had, we didn't know. We laughed because we were coming up with as many different ways to say, I don't know. I'll get back to you. That's a great question. I'm not quite sure. But at least we were telling our staff, listen, I'm being honest with you and setting up those honest conversations in the future. We also had a couple instances where we were able to give them an example of us being vulnerable. So we at one point hired a full-time sub that we did not know had conflict with many of our staff. And our staff came to us and said, this is going to be really bad for our culture and climate. You know, lots of staff were upset about the situation. And so we were able to come, Travis was able to come to our staff and say, hey, we messed up. We will fix this. Like, your safe and caring environment is important to us. And so we want to be able to support you in that. So being able to say, hey, we're going to get it wrong sometimes too, and that's okay, to be able to be vulnerable to our staff so that they feel safe and making mistakes as well, because we all will. Another way that we were able to be honest and vulnerable is through our conversations with staff. One of my first meetings with a staff about their observation for the year, all my background is in middle and high school, and it was my first year as an administrator, and my first observation experience was going to be with one of our kindergarten teachers who taught kindergarten for 25 years. So when we sat down, I was very honest and saying, look, I feel like I'm going to learn more from this experience than I'm going to be able to give to you. But we had a great conversation, and she was able to give me, like specifics. This is what I would love for you to look for while you're in my classroom. But it built a foundation of our relationship of honesty and vulnerability to say, I'm learning too in this situation. And another thing we really tried to encourage our staff is for them to be honest and vulnerable with each other. So if they're having small issues, instead of feeling like they need to come run to us and tell us all the things and then us have to go fix it. Be able to communicate with each other, because we're all a big family and we're going to have issues with each other sometimes. But if we're able to be honest with each other, then hopefully we can fix some of those conflicts internally before they get bigger and bigger and before we would have to get involved. But also, if they were having issues, we also wanted to support them in saying, yes, if you need mediation or if you need us to get involved in, supporting, that is a priority for us, because we do care that everyone is having a safe and caring environment. The other thing about honesty for us is we utilize surveys a lot. We survey our community, our families, we survey our staff, we survey our students, and we don't just get the survey, take a look and toss it in the trash. We really look at the data and we examine it. And if there are things that we are not doing well, then we work towards a conclusion that's going to be fixing that problem. So whether that is finding staff with those strengths where we have weaknesses and empowering them in different situations, or bringing our leadership team together to come up with new ideas, or utilizing our committees if we have specific targeted things that we need to work on. We are vulnerable in saying we're always going to have things we need to work on. And so asking what is it that we need to do? Then the next thing we really focused on was being available and visible. So one of the things that we try to do at least once a week is speak to every staff member. I know that seems silly, but it's very easy to get stuck in an office with people needing you, coming and coming and coming. But getting out and talking to your custodians, talking to your cafeteria ladies, talking to your instructional assistants, talking to your bus drivers, speaking to them to their face, knowing their names, knowing what's going on in their family is just super important. So we try to do at least twice a week, or at least once a week, try for two. But that's really helped in just building our relationships with people, knowing that we care about them.
Sometimes, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
And sometimes that's natural, and sometimes it's really not natural. Like people are different. So if you're a leader that has a hard time like starting small conversation and small talk and checking in on people, it just has to be more intentional. And that doesn't make you a fake person. Like I need to keep a spreadsheet of who I have actually talked to this week. Hey, keep a spreadsheet. Keep yourself on track. I spoke with him this week. I spoke with her this week. I did this week. That's okay. We do things intentionally until they become more natural. And then I think that just helps the whole culture in general, because sometimes I don't feel like going around and seeing everybody. I just don't. Sometimes I want to come in here and catch up on my email and get to all the things that I've been putting off for 3 days. But if I don't go around and see everybody every morning, then that's a huge opportunity missed every day. So.
Yep. And we also have weekly PLCs that we both try to be at. He is more involved in the curriculum side, where I do a lot more of the behavioral side of our PLCs, but we both try to be at all of the PLCs just so that we know what's going on. So staff are able to voice concerns weekly so that they see us, so that we see them. And we found that that's been really beneficial. Also, we just do classroom visits where we're not there for a purpose. We're not there to check their ICANN statements. We're not there to make sure they're doing their lesson plans or they're doing what their team's doing. We're just coming in so that we're visible for kids, so that we're visible for staff, just to lay that foundation of comfort that when we come in, it doesn't have to be I gotta get up from behind my desk and I gotta do all the things. And we're just there to be supportive and make relationships with people. And then we try to always have an open door policy. If people have concerns or questions or need things, that we're available to them. Then the next thing we really focused on was being dependable and consistent. So we have worked with each other before. So the first year was a lot of me coming to Travis and saying, does this sound right?
And a lot of me saying, I don't know.
Right. But for us to be on the same page as much as possible with staff for that consistency. So they know if they're coming to Travis, he's going to say the same thing that I'm saying, because we didn't want it to be like, oh, well, Megan's the easier one. She'll say, yes, go ask her, or he said no, but go ask her. Like, we just wanted to have a very firm front of we're on the same page. And then we also wanted to encourage staff that we're going to be fair and firm with all of them, but we have the balcony view. So we are able to see more of what's going on in our school as a whole. And we're able to know outside things that are happening to some of our staff. So we're fair and consistent, but we also know that, circumstances happen and that we have to be understanding and supportive. And that might not look the same for each of our staff members. And then the last thing is we really try to be just nurturing and supporting for our staff. So for the nurturing side of it, one of the things I love that we do is called a New Kids on the Block Club, which I get to run. It's for our new teachers, and our district has a new teacher cadre, which they go to once a month, which is great to support them, and they do great things there. But for us, it was more just we meet once a month and we have very honest conversations. What's going well? What's not going well? What do you need help with? And it's really been great for relationships for our new teachers. So they're able to sit with other new teachers and hear that they are not alone in some of their concerns. Because sometimes it's hard to be on a team of teachers with all veteran teachers and they're not struggling with the same things you are. So we were able to build relationships that way. And it was a way for me to know really what they needed.
And I'm not allowed to attend the New Kids on the Block meetings. The principal's not allowed to go.
Yes.
And that's, I gave Megan a hard time about it at first. But it really does make a difference because they are more vulnerable and more willing to open up to Miss Swart in there as she's talking about more social emotional things than instructional things. She's really checking in to say, how are you doing? Are you sitting up till 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock every night looking at this stuff, trying to get your life together? Or like, what are you, how is it going?
Yeah.
And they would be less likely to really, truly open up if I was in there. And so I think that's a huge piece of it.
Yeah. And some of our new teachers aren't from here. So they don't feel connected to the community. So it's time, like I bring in different treats each month from different places in the community. And it's just a really good time for them to feel included and heard. Because a lot of times our new teachers don't speak up in meetings and don't speak up in PLCs because they're just a little unsure. So it just gives them an opportunity. And another thing that we do to nurture is we have a mentee mentor program. So each of our new teachers are paired up with a more veteran teacher who meets with them on a regular basis, who is in their classroom. They get to go do observations with as well. And we found that's been really beneficial because we have team leaders, but it became a little too much for our team leaders. We needed someone else to be able to support not just with what are we doing next week in lesson plans, but discipline wise and classroom management strategies and, having that ability to have different plans to go visit each other and watch has been really beneficial. Another thing that I love that we really have tried with nurturing is we started with a PD on trauma-informed care and also self-care when we first started. And that's something that we have just continued throughout our entire time.
And it was focused on staff.
Yes.
Like it wasn't trauma-informed practices to put in place in the classroom.
Right.
Although some could definitely be used in the classroom, the purpose of the presentation was, what are you doing as an educator to take care of yourself?
Yeah.
And if you don't have anything in place, here's some ideas. And so we had a guy come in from, he wrote a book about it, and he's got a little program that he does. It's called The name's leaving me now. Love is Wellness or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was a great way to support our staff in letting them know that self-care is important.
Yeah. And it's something like I said, we've continued on. So even in our PLCs recently, I gave them all a circle and on a piece of paper, and they had to write all the things that they were stressed out about. But everything in the circle is what they could control, and everything outside of the circle was out of their control. And we were just able to have good discussions about stress and where they were and how they were doing. So we continue with that throughout the year. And it's not just like, oh, we did a PD about it, you should be fine, which we know is not true. So we're able to support them in that and nurture them in that. And then we are starting a learning hour this year within our own staff. So we have staff that do really great things and are really strong in certain areas. So we have Tuesdays kind of built in for our meetings, our faculty meetings and our committee meetings and things. So now we're going to have a learning hour time where staff will be able to choose from 3 different sessions that they can go and just get some new ideas, or if they just need some support in that. And it's going to not just be curricular. So we have math, we have reading things, but we also have SEL things and behavioral things. So that's another way we're able to nurture just within our own building. And then the other thing is we just try to be supportive. And this is my favorite part because everybody needs to feel supported in order to do well. That's just my thoughts, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult. So one of the things that we started with, we wrote an individual card to every person when we first got here, just to welcome them and to let them know who we were. And then we've continued that through our time. So in November, we write handwritten cards to all of our staff. And it's not like, we appreciate you, whatever. It's individualized. I love that you are, intentional about your relationships with kids. I love that you assist staff members anytime you see they need help. We're very specific on our praise, so it's not this generic thing. And we do that at Christmas or at the end of the year. So words of affirmation are something that I think we do well. We also have staff fill out a favorite things Google form, like their favorite drink, their favorite salty snack, their favorite sweet snack, their favorite sports team, etc. And then when it's their birthday, we get them something from their favorite thing. And they also utilize that all year long. If someone's having a rough day, we can look at their thing and say, oh, they like Diet Coke. And you can get them a Diet Coke with a little note that says, hey, thinking of you, or here for you. And our staff has really jumped onto that and they utilize it for each other. So like, hey, I really want to do something nice for the staff member. They help me out. Can I have their list? And it's been utilized that way too. So we also celebrate all of our staff on the days of the year, where you celebrate bus drivers or you celebrate cafeteria workers or teachers, but we don't just do those days. So we'll just have a day where we take donuts out to the bus drivers and tell them thank you, or have the kids make cards for the cafeteria workers just to tell them thank you. Because it's nice when it's the day that you're supposed to get something, like Valentine's Day, you're supposed to get something, but it's even a little bit more special when you get things unexpectedly. So we do that. And then we really worked on bonding. So we do a lot of competitions. During March Madness, we do a rock, paper, scissors tournament. So we have like the Sweet 16 one day, we have the Elite 8 one day, we have the Final Four, we make it a big deal. The staff that wins gets gift cards and they get the, honor of being the winner for the next year. And we have stuff like an Easter egg hunt, and we have a golden egg, and the golden egg, they get to wear jeans for the whole year the next year. Or we have something called a Wally boot contest, which
It's one of my favorites.
you just take a big rain boot and you try to throw it as far as you can. And there's different ways, different strategies, but so we just try to have fun in that way, just by bonding with fun competitions. And then we also just try each month to do things to encourage from us. So we do like an ice cream Friday where we'll wear silly hats and we'll take ice cream around to all the staff, or We'll have food carts of just snacks that they can keep in their room. Of course, we do Gene Day passes. I think, everyone utilizes those. We did gift cards on Wednesdays. I would ask a random question, like who's the 17th president's wife's name or something. And the 17th caller would get a gift card. We've tried to do stuff like that. And then the last thing in that area is we just try to have fun. Because this job is hard. What administrators do is hard. What teachers do is hard. And we teach children, though. Like we can have a little fun sometimes. Kids need to have fun sometimes and see us having fun. So we do, dress up days, and we did last year for our, we had a can challenge for Operation Happiness, and there was his face and my face out in the hallway, and whoever brought in the most cans for whichever principal, that principal got to dress the other principal for a day. So that was fun because Mr. Marcum loves to dress up. It's his favorite.
It is not, but I do it.
Yes. So we do that, or, we showcase our staff's gifts. Like Travis can play the guitar very, very well. So he just the other day was playing in the music class. They earned a reward for him to come down and play for them. We sing. We have just, different staff do different things all the time, and we showcase them. On St. Patrick's Day, give everybody their leprechaun name. All the staff have to wear their, whatever their leprechaun name is. And we jump in at recess and race kids, or we just try to, have some fun as well as learn, as one of our priorities. And then the other thing that what we did was we worked on our own self-care. So it's easy to tell other people like, oh, you need to go home and, do this and limit things, but it's another thing for us to do it ourselves. So for me, a part of my self-care is getting up in the morning, having some quiet time, reading my Bible, doing some exercise. And I had a hard time shutting off work to go home. I have children at home. And so someone would be texting me or emailing me that they needed me, but I was having a conversation with my child, or I'm at a, event with them. So for me, part of my self-care was learning to shut it down and not look at it till the next morning. And also having people for me that are supportive. So that does not mean I have people that just agree with everything that I say, right? So when I'm frustrated and I go home and I'm like, oh, this person and this person, I need people in my life that are like, okay, well, that's not really true, or that might just be your perspective, who challenge me to be better, and just positive people, who are able to encourage me. That's part of my self-care, is surrounding myself with people that can give me encouragement and not just commiserate in my misery. So.
Any questions or comments so far? I feel like we're just talking at you a mile a minute and not leaving any time for discussion. We get really excited when we talk about having fun at school. It's our favorite. It's what we do. Any comments, thoughts, or questions so far?
I'll just say an encouraging word. I'm taking tons of notes, and I will be following up to get some of the processes that you use, I guess, especially for the new teacher, kids on the block. I'm very interested in what an agenda for those meetings look like, and that we can maybe share that out as well. So yeah, keep sharing. I don't want to take up much time, so go for it.
Awesome. Well, like I said, that's you saw where we were when we came in. We're now in our third year at the school as a team, and very blessed to have Megan, and I hope she feels the same. I feel like we have built a pretty special, something really, really special here at our school, and it's trickling down. It has. And if you look on the outline at Roman numeral 3, it kind of says, where are we now? Where are we? So we talked a little bit about where we began and what we did intentionally, and what we're still trying to do intentionally. So as of now, last year no classroom teachers left. I didn't have to hire any classroom teachers. So I went from hiring 10 classroom teachers, 16 people overall, to no classroom teachers left. I did have some other people that got other opportunities and left that I had to hire for, but none of my classroom teachers willingly left last year. So that was huge. We did take the impact survey. As you guys know, we took that last year, I think, and we got our results back. And our school climate went from 31% when we came on board to now it's at 86%. Our school leadership went from 27% to 92%. Our staff leadership relationships went from 39% to 96%. So, I mean, of course, we're elated to see those results, and we celebrated, and everybody celebrated. But we're also realistic. Like, we know that we're probably not going to be able to maintain a 96% of anything. Like, it's probably going to level out some. But we are just excited that our staff want to be here. Our staff want to come to work. Our staff enjoy what they are doing. We enjoy what we're doing. And when that happens, when the leaders enjoy what they're doing, when the staff members enjoy what they're doing, the kids are going to enjoy what they're doing. It sounds simple, but I really believe that. I mean, it trickles down. If you have miserable leadership and miserable teachers, you're going to have some miserable students. That's going to make for a miserable time for everybody. Now, of course, we're also realists in the fact that, well, it's not just fun time, playtime all the time. Like, teaching and leading is hard. It's hard work. But you have to have that balance of, being human, but also getting the job done at the same time. So those percentages and numbers, those give you a little bit of an idea of where we came from, where we are now. Our student enrollment, this year we got a little
surprise.
Yeah, a little surprise with student enrollment. And I don't think it's all due to the culture and climate in the building, but I do think some of it is. There's a buzz around town about I kind of want my kid to go to Concrete. I hear nothing but great things about. There's some really cool things happening over there. We went from our enrollment during the COVID year that we came on was about 440. We had 440 K through fourth graders. Then last year we were at about 450, 460, something like that. This year right now we're sitting at 509. We have 509 kids in our building, and it's been a wild ride for the past couple of months. It's been tough. Not gonna lie, it has been tough. It's just a lot of kids, a lot of needs, but we are still intentionally focusing on creating a safe and caring learning environment for all of us. For all of us. We're also getting more community involvement. Our PTO has really become something special. That's grown over the past year. Our Partners in Education program is growing. Our family resource coordinator she's got some cool volunteer opportunities happening. Things like Moms on a Mission and Dads on Duty. And just ways for caregivers to get involved in the school system. And that's kind of where we are, and that's where we're headed. Like, we want to foster that idea that the school is not this separate building that sits outside the community. It's like, oh, that's the schoolhouse. I don't go there. I hated school when I was there. I'm definitely not going there as an adult. And so we're trying to flip that script a little bit. Like, yes, come in, please. Come in, see us. Have a donut. Let's talk. How can we support you? What do you like? What do you not like? And we're currently in the process of becoming a certified family-friendly school. Um, that's a fairly new initiative, I believe, through the Pritchard Committee, and we're working through the self-assessments and the modules that are required to apply to become a official certified family-friendly school. Um, we're still focusing on our relationship building, but we are now able to put more purposeful and intentional focus on being instructional leaders in our building. Now that we have our culture climate under control a little bit, a lot more than it was, we can intentionally focus more on the instructional piece because people feel respected and they feel supported and they trust us. And we recognize, like, yes, this is hard. This is hard work. But building those relationships has allowed us to now focus more on the instructional leadership piece. Um, and just overall, we want to empower and inspire each other to succeed, whatever that may look like. Um, and that all goes back to our mission statement. So, but we are also realists, and we know there's things that don't happen. So things to consider. Ms. Swart's going to mention some things to consider when talking about
some
this.
things that we've kind of learned along the way is there is such a thing as toxic positivity. If you're going into a conversation with a staff member and they're telling you about something that is wrong and they need your help, and it's just a frustrating situation, you're like, oh, well, it'll get better. That's kind of toxic positivity, where you're just like positive because you don't have the answers or you don't know what to say, and it's not very helpful and it's very hurtful actually, because people can walk away like, what just happened? But it's okay to say that's super frustrating and I don't have the answer yet, but we'll work towards something together, or we'll get some help from other areas, or let's get some other people involved. But being like, hey, great job, things are great, when you walk into a classroom that kids are running all over the place, is not very helpful. So we've learned that. We've also learned that you can't please all the people all the time, right? So that was very obvious during COVID time. We had families screaming at us because they didn't want their child to wear a mask, and we had families screaming at us because they did want their child to wear a mask. And it's the same, with staff and everything. You're not going to please everyone all the time, and that's okay. That's not what we're here for. We're here for students and their success, and that's our target. But sometimes it's a good reminder that it's okay that not everyone is happy all the time. And then the last thing is balancing this supporting people, but also holding them accountable, right? So we want to create a safe and caring learning environment for staff, but that doesn't mean they just get away with everything and they aren't held to a standard, like, we care about you and we're here to support you, but we're also going to make sure that you're doing your job because that's why we're here. So we've had to learn this balancing act, and I think you just continue to learn as you go. The more that you get to know staff, and the longer that we're in leadership, we're learning a better way to balance that.
Yeah, that was, to be completely honest and vulnerable, that's one of the struggles that I still have.
Yep.
Is trying to balance that, seeing everyone as, like, struggling humans that we are. And it's like, yes, I know you're struggling and I know this is hard, but also being tasked with the being the principal of the school. And it's like my job to hold you accountable for meeting the needs of these students and these families. And I know it's hard. So that's probably always going to be a constant struggle for me.
Yep.
Balancing that, being the supportive principal, the understanding principal, the principal that gets the fact that, yes, life is tough. I have a life outside of school. I have a lot going on, but also being the principal that sets a high standard and encourages people and supports people in meeting that high standard. So we're still working on that piece. So I'm hoping to hear some feedback and ideas from someone that's a little more experienced in that than I am. An idea that we're talking about right now, that's actually going to be one of our learning hour topics next week, is this idea of being an educator pre-COVID versus now, because it's just different. I don't know all the ways that it's different, but it's just different. It feels different. If you've been around before COVID and you're still in education now, like that was a huge disruption. And we can't gloss over that. And I feel like sometimes people do. I feel like sometimes people that aren't in it every day are kind of like, well, that's over, pandemic's over. Let's get back to this. It's like, yeah, that's the idea, but I mean, it's not going to happen like that. Like it takes time. The effects of this are going to linger with not just students, with staff, with us as humans. We went through trauma. All of us went through trauma for a year or longer. And the effects of that are not just going to go away. And so we're trying to look at, how has education changed? How has teaching changed? How has leading changed pre-COVID versus now? So I'm excited to see what our school counselor comes up. I'm going to attend that session. So I'm excited to see what she comes up with talking about pre-COVID versus now. But the last thing that's on the outline that I shared with everyone, got some suggested resources on there. Those are just the go-tos that I keep referring back to. They kind of help me become the leader that I want to be. I'm a huge Andy Stanley fan. I don't know if you know him or not. He leads a church down in Atlanta, but he also has a leadership podcast that's not, it's more of a secular podcast. I'm a huge Maxwell fan. John Maxwell's the man. So, and then there's a couple of other resources on there that I find myself going to a lot. So that's really all that we have. Looks like there's a question. What advice would you give for individuals who are preparing to become principals? To just know that it's going to be overwhelming at times, and know that that's okay, and know that you are not the only one that's overwhelmed. And to also know that it's okay to look at someone and say, I don't know, but I will find out.
Yeah, your first year of administration is going to be kind of like your first year of teaching. I had done some almost like dean of student type work before, so I thought I was prepared and I was going to be ready for an administrative role. And there was lots of things that I had no idea what I was doing. So I think going into administration, just knowing that, have an open mind, and it's this your first year especially, you're just going to learn a lot and be willing to ask questions. I think that's a great way to approach it.
It's an awesome question. Anyone else have questions or comments or anything that you've seen that works well in building culture and talking with staff, or any challenges that you've faced that you would like to share? Anything that we have mentioned that you want to hear anything else about? Or I'm sure Keith's going to follow up with us and get some more information to send out as well, but I'll be glad to elaborate on something if you have questions, specific questions or concerns. Or
I tried to find the love is wellness thing that you mentioned, Travis. the website that I found said it was under construction. So if you think of or can send me the specific of what that's called again, or a link or whatever, we can share that out as well. But I think that'd be self-care for staff. I think is something that you all touched on that would be a great thing for a lot of people to have access to, how you're actually encouraging people to, like we all talk about, okay, we're going to do that for children. We're going to teach in a way that is supporting and self-care and how to tell them to have, care, but actually taking care of ourselves, especially from the principal and assistant principal seat, is so often overlooked. And so I think that's something that we can share out. And if you have a good resource, I'd love to get that from you.
Yes, sir. I will find that and I will send that to you here in just a little bit.
Comment from Angela, presentation aligns with Anthony Muhammad's work. Yeah, he's a solution tree guy, and I heard him speak in Atlanta, and absolutely he's on par with all of the things that you've said. I would encourage everyone to check him out. He's got some good things out there.
I just wrote his name down. I'm not familiar with him, so that's awesome. That's exciting. I'll check it out.
And he really will.
Yeah, I really will.
He's a reader.
Actually, as you all were speaking, I thought that you were quoting from his book. You will notice that as you went down your list of like starting off with honesty and vulnerability, all of that is in his book. Being dependable, consistent. I mean, almost word for word, the same language. So I really thought that you had read his book. So no, you'll be hearing yourself through his work.
Awesome. Maybe owes me some royalties or something.
That's great. Any other questions? All right. Well, Travis and Megan, thank you very much. That was a wonderful presentation. I appreciate your time and the effort that you put into sharing your story. It's not always easy to share your story with the rest of the state. There will be people out there that take it and run with it, and there'll be people out there that pick it apart, and that's being very, very vulnerable. And I appreciate your vulnerability. And I think that just further gives an example of what you've done at your school. I heard you mention trust multiple times, and that being the key to being able to move your school forward. And to earn that trust, you have to be vulnerable. And so thank you guys for both doing that and being willing to share. Appreciate it very much. And thanks everyone for being here. It is almost 11 o'clock, and we try to be respectful of your time. Know that you have a lot going on. There will be a recording of this that I'll send out along with the outline, and then a couple of other resources that have been mentioned within the presentation. And that's also on our webpage, which I would encourage all of you to check out our webpage. And I can share that in the chat before we go. Stacy, do you have anything you'd like to share?
No, Keith, thank you. I enjoyed the session and appreciated everyone taking time today to be part of this professional experience.
Yeah. We're always looking for feedback. So if there's something that you think we could improve upon as we do these P3 Principal Connections, would love to hear feedback from you. You can just email me, keith.greiser@education.ky.gov. And that's it for today. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.